Today we're going to look at IBM MQ and IBM Integration Bus on IBM Cloud Private. Here's IBM Cloud Private, and certainly the first things you do with these products on Cloud Private is you might go and try out the simple deploys through the catalogue. And there's a wide catalogue of Helm charts for doing deployments of applications and middleware, and we can do a quick search and you'll see there's IBM Integration Bus, got IBM MQ. And if you'd like to do a quick deploy, you would go in, select the charts, hit configure, okay, add a release name, accept the license terms and conditions, etc. And put in some things that you would certainly expect: queue manager names, user IDs and passwords, etc. All of the things that you'd expect you'd need to configure a queue manager. You'd hit the install, and IBM Cloud Private will actually go and install an MQ implementation or an IIB and stand up a queue manager or node respectively. Okay. We go back to the dashboard. I'm not actually going to do that today. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what do you do once you go beyond that sort of basic first steps experience and convenience service with our middleware, and that would be to actually create your own standard operating environment for IIB and MQ, for your developers to use, for your administrators to work with MQ, etc. So I've done that, and I've actually already deployed a Helm release. So we can go and take a quick look at the work that I've done, and then we'll go back and look at how it all hangs together. Okay. So we go and take a look at the Cloud Private Helm releases. We'll find a number of things that have been released here. This is the one that we're working on today, which is IIB MQ SPLT. It's just a name, okay. And if we go and look at the service, okay, you'll see that we can go and take a look. We've got the port mappings that have been done, and we've got the node ports for our various services. So our MQ server is listening here, our MQ admin console will connect here, the web GUI for IIB here, and the two HTTP listeners that we've exposed at the node and at the server level listener for IIB. Okay. So looking at those port numbers and IP addresses, I've got an MQ console which I've already connected up, 31685, and we can go and take a look. Okay, if we look at the properties for this guy, we can see he's a 903, his name's ICP DA1 is the queue manager name, etc. We've got some user queues that are in there. We have our various channels and things that have been created. Okay. The ICP node has a node, IIB node, ICP node 1. I've deployed a couple of applications in there, sort of fictitiously there. This one was developed by developer 1, and this one was developed by developer 2. And the reality is they are actually just small Hello World HTTP applications. So if we go and look at how they work, we can send any information at all in. This is developer 2's URL. Remember, we're listening on 32248, which we can sort of double check back here is our server listener. Okay. And so if I send anything in at all, we get a response back, and we're getting back Hello World from developer 2 to IBM Melbourne. The other service, which is on developer 1, which is a different URL, same port listener, and he's currently returning Hello World again. Okay, so that's how we're set up at the moment. So we've got a combined IIB and MQ deployment that's going on, and we've got queues and we've got message flows. So let's actually take a look at sort of a bit of the day of the life of a developer. Okay, and well, here we go. We're going to start with developer 2. This is actually that HTTP message flow that I showed you earlier on, and as you'll see, there's that suffix URL which we were seeing here, and what I've done is I've changed the text. Okay, so hello world, oops, sorry, I'll switch to developer 1. Let's make sure we get that right. Developer 2, okay, and save that off. So hello world and IBM private from developer 2, okay, and what we'll do is we'll rebuild his bar file. Okay, and we'll sort of simulate checking this in to a source control system. What I'm just going to do is I'm going to export this to a GitHub, a Git repository using a Git client that I use for my source control of my projects, IIB projects on my machine. So sort of typical developer, people use different tools. I just happen to use a Git client. Okay, so I'll just check that in. Yes, we'll overwrite the one that's there. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll look at the other developer. Okay, and he's obviously got a different URL on his flow. Okay, he's about developer 1. Let's just make sure we know we're doing something different here. And once again, he's got his bar file. Okay, and we'll build and save that. And that's developer 2 has finished his work for the day. He's very happy. He's probably gone off and already tested that and everything else. So he's going to do the same kind of thing. He's going to check it into the source control system. As I said, on my particular machine, to get the right repository. There's our split Helm repository. Okay, so I'm checking that in to source control. Okay, and we're all happy. Okay, as the controller of my fictitious SIT, System Integration Testing environment, okay, which exists on ICP, I'm going to go to my source control, and I'm going to see if there's been any changes today. And look, I can see both my developers have updated their bar files, so I better say so. Latest IIB code drop from dev 1 and dev 2. Okay, sign that off, we'll commit it, and what we'll do is we'll do a push. Okay, and I've just got, saved me a bit of trouble, I've got where I'm going to push to is my GitHub repository, which lives up there for me in GitHub public. Okay, I'm using that service, so let's pop that in there. Do a push, and I need to give it some credentials, password. Okay, and we should see that happening, and it's going to end up here on GitHub. Okay, but I've got a Jenkins pipeline available. This Jenkins pipeline, which is running as part of Microservices Builder on IBM Cloud Private, is actually set up, and I'll show you in a minute, to actually talk to GitHub. And you'll see it's been triggered. Okay, so there's my GitHub repository that it's looking at as part of my organization, and we've got it triggered from that change that I've just pushed up, and we can go and see what it's actually doing. Okay, now you can see the build has started. Okay, it's going to go and do some interaction with our repository. It's going to build a new deployment for us. You might recognize that name. Okay, and it's off and running. So what's it actually doing? It's probably worth at this stage to look at a quick diagram. And typically at this point, PowerPoint is not responding. There we go. So this is what's actually going on. I've done my work. I've pushed it up to GitHub. Okay. There is Jenkins as part of the microservice builder is OAuth configured to talk to this organization, and I've got a webhook which is fired, which has told Jenkins to do it. Go and scan my repository, do a pull, do a build and load. Okay, so we're going to go through a build and load exercise to place the images once they're built into our private image repository on ICP. It then works its way through, does a complete build, constructs the Helm charts, which it loads and keeps as well, does a deploy through the master node, and we're actually creating one of these guys here, so a combined MQ and IIB. Okay, and so we should see we're still running. Doesn't take too long. Here's that GitHub repository I'm talking about, okay, and we can go and see if we go and look at webhooks, we can actually see what's going on here. So that GitHub webhook URL sitting at this address, this is where my microservices builder pipeline is actually running on ICP. It's actually sitting behind a Bluemix secure gateway, so I'm giving this a public IP address actually through the IBM public cloud. But that actually resolves down to my ICP instance, and this is the URL that, that Jenkins as part of microservice builder pipeline is listening on. Okay. So look, we can see we're nearly there. Okay, the build's gone through. Let's take a quick look back at the sorts of things that have been going on. Okay, so here we are. We're going and grabbing MQ. Okay, and we're doing some work in building out that image for our container. We're grabbing IIB installation and we're doing some work on that, adding groups and things. Exposing our port numbers, pushing it up. Everything's starting to look good. We're doing the Helm install, finding our service name, okay, and it looks to me like we're all done and dusted. Okay, so what we can do, remembering that we already had a Helm release there, what we're hoping's happened is we've completely replaced it. Okay, so let's kill off our nodes. Let's go down here and look at our Helm release, our latest Helm release. Okay. Take a look at the service. It should all look much the same. It very often picks up the same deployment node, so IP address, and reuses the port numbers, which it looks like it has. So let's just kick, and we'll pull up the console as well. Remembering that for MQ we need HTTP S, because we've got to do a login for the console. Okay, that's on its way. Come on, a bit slow. And add the exception. Redirect. And log into MQ. Okay, that's coming up. That's come up as well. So we've now got, and unsurprisingly, we're seeing exactly as we did before. Okay. Now, if we remember, we've got a couple of other things going on. We've got some flows deployed that we changed into our IIB, so we can go and take a look at what those flows are telling us now. Okay, so this is the developer 2 flow that, if you remember, we changed the line. Okay, what we're going to get back, and we can do a send, and this time we get back the different changed message. So we've changed our application, okay, we've done a complete deploy, and we can do something similar here, and there you go. So we've now got hello from developer 1. So we've been right the way round the loop of looking at multiple developers working, possibly unit testing locally, or potentially on their own ICP runtime, and then checking their work in end of day or however we want to do it, into a source repository that we then push up to our enterprise Git solution, and the webhook fires. Jenkins onboard ICP runs, does the scan, does the complete rebuild, and re-delivers all of the code to the latest level that we can then test against on ICP, and we could perhaps trigger, as part of a broader pipeline, a set of regression testing that we could run at the end of day every day. Okay, so that's an example of multiple developers bringing their work together, all on top of ICP, leveraging the toolchain tooling on top of ICP to build that first system integration testing environment. Okay, thanks.